Hello, witches. Welcome back and welcome to 2025. I am coming to you from the past in 2024 on Monday, December 30th. I think it's Monday today. Anyway, I am wrapping up my 2024 and then prepping for 2025. So I was going to do some filming today of my books, obviously, for this video to wrap up this year and talk about what I'm excited for in 2025. And then I'm going to hop over and film some spell work that you're going to be seeing in the coming weeks to close out this year, but then also get ready for my own goals. So I'm ready to go on January 1st. That's usually what I do at these last couple of days of the year. But even though you will be watching those in 2025, they should still be helpful to you because they're just specifically goal related or related to finances, health and wellness. Those kind of spells are good at any time of year. If you did not get started on January 1st, then February 1st is an excellent time to actually start goals in bulk, and instead use this January period as a reset and reflection time to then get ready to start on February 1st. So lots of ways to keep going with your goals. Obviously, I could not close out this year without finishing my tallies of all of the books that I read in 2024. So I've got my 2024 reading log here, and then I have the 2025 one as well. So let's go over my December stats, and then I will talk a little bit about my December books. I'm not going to go over every single one, but just give you some of the highlights. So December, I read 17 books for 7,289 pages, one physical book, 16 ebooks. And as far as star ratings, I did not give out any 1 stars. I did give out 2 stars, but I also gave out 2 5 stars. So kind of all over the board in December, and the rest were in that 3 and 4 range. So overall in 2024, I read 254 books. It seems like so much when I say it like that, for 101,539 pages. That's a lot of pages and a lot of books. Now I'm like looking at the numbers. Wow. Mostly ebooks. I think 159 ebooks, so that's the biggest one. I gave out 6 1 stars because I don't star anything that I DNF. So if I just did not finish reading it, I don't rate it at all. But I did DNF some stuff this year, so maybe that should count those in there. Anyway, and I gave out 25 5 stars. So that is pretty good. Everything else was in the 3 to 4 range. I did give out 22. Yes, 22 2 stars. So I had some like not great reads. And like I said, in my 2025 reading goals, I want to be more decisive on my stats and my ratings because I feel like a lot of times I'm either too nice or too harsh. Like I don't want to give things 1 star. I'm like, oh, there's something redeeming, so I'll like bump it up to 2. Like, no, we're giving out the 1 stars. If they deserve 1 star, we're giving them 1 star. And then same with the 5-star reads. Sometimes I'm just too critical because I read from a review standpoint, especially when I get free books on NetGalley. I am looking at them from a reviewer standpoint. So I am like nitpicking too many things, and I need to more look at it like in terms of enjoyment. And if I enjoyed it to the 5-star level, then give it the 5 stars. So this is definitely one of my goals in 2025. But before we jump into what I'm going to read in 2025, let's go over the actual list of what I read. I actually did not read any witchcraft books in December. So everything that I read was fiction, and I'm pretty sure it was all in the fantasy realm. So there were a lot of things that contain magic systems and fun witchy things, which we will get to, but no actual witchcraft books. So I'm going to talk about the ones that were really good or really bad, or ones that are coming out in 2025 that I think you should have on your radar. So the first 2 that I read in December were actually hits. I finally read the 3rd book by James Islington. This one is The Light of All That Falls. So that is the Lycanius trilogy. Finally finished that. They are all like 800 to 1,000 page books, so that took me a while. But I love James Islington, like great books. So I talked about that, I think, in the last video as well, and when I read that first one. So highly recommend. I ended up giving that one 4 stars. And then the second one that I read in December. I gave 5 stars and it was only 68 pages, and that was The Answer Is No by Frederick Bachman. And that was the prime, like, first reads. It was, I think, the bonus that you got. So if you have Amazon Prime, on the first of the month, every month, they have Prime first reads. So they give you a choice of a free ebook, one that's going to be published in the next like month or two in a bunch of different categories. So always check. You should get an email about it, but if you haven't been, definitely go on to Prime. Now, if you haven't yet for January, there will be ebooks that you can choose from, and then sometimes they have a bonus short story, and that's what they had in December. So I know a lot of people are familiar with Frederick Bachman. He wrote one that I like started and didn't finish this year, which was Beartown. I think it's called Beartown. But that was like too sad, emotional, character driven. I was just not in the mood for that, but everybody loves it. So maybe you should check out more Frederick Bachman. But this one I gave a 5 stars, and I cannot believe it was only 68 pages. It's called The Answer Is No. And I laughed, I cried. Like, how do you put all of those emotions in 68 pages? I don't know. But I thought it was hilarious. There's so many great, like, one line, like, dry humor in there that's so funny. And it is this main character who loves to be home by himself, works from home, doesn't want to answer his doors, lives in the apartment building. And he's like, I love playing my video games and people are horrible, so I don't want to deal with people. And I'm like, same. And he lives quite happily in his own little bubble there until one day the homeowners association board comes knocking on his door and is complaining that somebody left a pan outside of the garbage and recycle, like on the ground. You can't leave a pan on the ground. Oh my gosh. And he was like, okay, well, I didn't do it. And they were like, well, we have to find out who did. He's like, would you like me to just take the pan and throw it out? Do you want me to take it down to the dump? And they were like, no. That's just going to signal that anybody could do it. So like, why would you do it? You're like, no, absolutely not. He was like, well, that would solve the problem. And I would really like you to leave my doorway. So how about I just go do that? And they're like, no. We're going to start a committee. We're going to find out who did this. And it just spirals from there with them, like, getting him involved, putting him in charge of the committee. All of a sudden, lots of people start piling stuff up because, like, you see like one piece of junk on the ground, like everybody thinks it's like a dump and they're going to pile everything on there, and it spirals out of control. And through that, he meets like 2 of his neighbors, begrudgingly starts to like them. It was so funny. I loved it from beginning to end. Best 68 pages. So I definitely gave that one 5 stars. Ones I gave like 3-ish plus stars that come out in 2025. I will remind you like the month that this is going to come out, because one is May and one is July, so they're kind of further. A Fate Forged in Fire by Hazel McBride and Fateless by Julie Kagawa. And those are both in that fantasy romance genre. Fateless is YA, and I thought they were decent, and I think that those are really going to find an audience of people who love them. So I will remind you when they come out and talk a little bit more about those then. And then 5 stars. I was so excited to get this early because this comes out April 1st. And if you are already a Margaret Owen fan, this is already on your list, but it is Holy Terrors. And that is the 3rd in the series. The first one being Little Thieves, second one being Painted Devils, and the 3rd being Holy Terrors. And I loved it, 5 stars. I love that whole series. The characters in that are some of my favorites, especially the main character, Vanya, one of my favorite characters. If you have not read that series, I highly recommend getting on that. And then, like I said, April 1st, the 3rd one is going to come out, and they are all great. And I thought the 3rd one like really wrapped things up well. If you have not read the series, it's a Goose Girl plus Godfather Death retelling. So we are following I think it's Goose Girl, that the princess has her life stolen by one of her servants, and so the servant goes and pretends to be the princess and takes over her, highborn life, and the princess gets sent into being like a poor orphan on the streets. And we are instead following the perspective of the quote-unquote villain, Vanya, who is the one that takes over the princess's life. And that happens in the 1st book. And then also, Vanya happens to be the 13th daughter in a family, and the mom thinks that's unlucky, can't take care of the 13th child, goes out into the woods, into the crossroads to leave the child out there. But the number 13 is lucky to the gods, so she is instead adopted by the gods of fortune and death. So it's like both of those retellings combined into one. So Vanya has a little bit of powers from her godmothers that adopted her before they sent her off to live in the real world, because you can't have a human living that long in the world of the gods. So she retained a little bit of her power. Her godmothers are still watching over her and sort of hinting at things, guiding her along, but she does end up stealing the princess's life. And at the same time, while she's masquerading as the princess, is also basically pulling a Robin Hood and stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, and also herself. Mostly herself. But it's such a great story, like from beginning to end, of like great character redemption arc. We've got the love story in there because one of basically the policemen of this fantasy world, he sets out to find her, bring her in. Of course, they fall in love instead. But then there's lots of turmoil between their relationship, everything that, happens from there. I cannot tell you anything else without ruining second and third books. So I'm just going to say that third one is coming out April 1st. Absolutely get your hands on it. And if you have not started that series yet, I highly recommend that you do, because it's one of my favorites. Another one I gave 4 stars to, this came out in October, Echoes of the Imperium by Nicholas and Olivia Atwater. And this is a epic fantasy, and it's Firefly. If you ever watched Firefly, or the corresponding movie, Serenity, with Nathan Fillion, I was entirely picturing that cast, like Nathan Fillion and River, like throughout this entire book. It is like an airship pirates version rather than a space version, but it's literally Firefly. So it is sci-fi and action throughout the entire thing. So if you like adventure, epic fantasy, absolutely get that one. If you like Firefly, you're going to like this one, because you're going to see like all the similarities that I did. And I had a good time with that one. I read Echo by Tracy Clark, which is the third in her mystery detective series. And I gave this one 4 stars, and I like this series. It is on Kindle Unlimited, and it is a detective in Chicago. So maybe that's why I like it so much, because I recognize everything that the author is talking about. I assume she lives here in Chicago as well, because all of her other stories are based in Chicago. So I really enjoy that one. If you like detective mystery thrillers, relatively easy, short reads, then I would check that one out, because I like all 3 of them. I think I gave 4 stars. So good series if you are looking for something in that realm to read. One of my 2-star reads was Spectacular by Stephanie Garber, and I don't think I'm alone in saying that. And it was just this like Christmassy bonus novella set in that Caraval world. And I was excited to revisit the characters because I did like Caraval, but it was not good. I did not enjoy it at all. Just like the way the story progresses. It's a short one, like 200 pages or something. So I can't really tell you anything without like giving away the plot, but there's a lot of the stuff that happened. I was just like, why are we doing this? There's like a whole like kidnap plot. It gets weird. I was like, no, this is not how I wanted to revisit this world. So not a fan. And then the last one, which I gave 4 stars, and I think it's high 4 stars. Like maybe if I'm just like reading for enjoyment, I would bump it up to 5. But this one comes out in July, and I absolutely will remind you at the beginning of July, because I think witches are going to really love this one. And it is Arcana Academy by Elise Kova. And it is romantasy, but the romance starts way late. Like you can see that they're like building this enemies to lovers romance, but it starts way late in the book. And obviously going to be a series because it ends on a big cliffhanger, but the magic system is so much fun. It is completely based around the tarot, and there are certain groups in society, people who they're born with this power. You have no idea if they're going to be elite or common born, no clue. It just manifests whenever, and they are called arcanists, and they can draw the tarot cards, put their energy into it, and then wield the card as a spell. So for all the minor arcana cards are represented, and we are following our main character who has not gone along with what society wants her to. If you were born with these powers, you were supposed to go into this academy, and she stays hidden because her mother raised her and her sister to believe that everything about this was dangerous, and the academy is controlled by the elites. The king and the princes are evil, and they are just going to kill you. And the academy is not safe at all. It's definitely dangerous Harry Potter. Like you get sorted into 4 houses, but you have to compete to the death to get into those houses. So a lot of the characters die. So definitely it's dangerous Harry Potter vibes. But the way the tarot and the spells were set up is so much fun because it's actually related to the cards. So the author really put a lot of work into learning the tarot system and figuring out which elements go with which suits. So you pull something in the cups and you're dealing with the element of water or ice or some way, and other ones like fires or swords, and they're related to like the numbers on the cards as well. So there's a full glossary in the back of like what spell comes out of using what card, and they're basically all to attack each other. So our main girl is extremely proficient in these cards, was taught by a young age by her mom, and nobody previously knew that she existed, but we start following her story. She is in prison because she got caught with doing all of these cards without having gone to the academy. So we see the second born prince come and get her out of this prison and tells her he needs her help for something, and therefore she has to be enrolled in the academy and also pose as his fiance. So obviously you get that whole enemies to lovers there. So she has to battle her way through the academy without showing just how proficient she is in these cards. And then we find out a little bit into the story that there are also major arcana cards at play, and only special people have those and can wield them. I don't want to say too much about how that happens without giving away the plot, but that's another interesting aspect of it as well. But I just love seeing all of the tarot cards represented, and that is the entire basis of the magic in this world, is being able to draw these cards, put your energy in, and then use it as a spell. There's cards of fortune and healing, so that's why she did this on the streets, is because somebody would come to her with some ailment and she would ink the card and wield the card to heal whatever happened to them. But yes, you're not allowed to do that unless you are one of the elites, and she obviously was not. So one of the most fun magic systems that I have seen, the only thing that I docked stars off, or a star off for, was there were parts, I think it was unnecessarily long, because towards the end there were parts that seemed to drag a little bit, and then the characters were all over the place. Mom left, she was killed by the elites, and a big part of this is our main character trying to find her sister who went into the academy a year before her, and is trying to figure out what happened to her, why she hasn't heard from her, where is she. And after her mom was killed, her and her sister were raised by this club of also rebels that have these same powers. And between that and then going into the academy and making friends there were too many characters, and I think it was supposed to have this found family trope to it as well, and I don't think that one worked as well, just because there were so many things going on and so many characters both in the academy and in this club that raised her and her sister, that there were just too many things and not enough time or reason to care about all of those characters, because a lot of them were just the same. But that did not stop me from loving the book and the world setting, so I will absolutely be talking about that again in July and chatting about you getting your hands on that one when it comes out. So those are all of my December reads and my stats for the entire year. And now popping over to my 2025 version, I just wanted to highlight some of the books that are on my TBR, because I got this finally all filled out of things that I wanted to read. I went over my goals already, talking about wanting to read 120 books this year, focusing on my TBR, getting through some of the epic fantasy that is on my list, because those are always really long in series. So I have my list, and I'm going to, read you some highlights, and I would like you to tell me if any of these are on your list, and if any are ones that you have already read and think that I should prioritize, because I have no plan really going into 2025 of where I'm going to start and how I'm going to read all of these. Some of them I do own, but some I would be getting from the library. So let me know which ones you think I should prioritize. Obviously looking forward to Onyx Storm and Sunrise on the Reaping. I know my husband already pre-ordered both of those for me, so we won't even go there. I would like to continue on in the Red Rising series. I read the original trilogy. Was that a trilogy? I think it was, I'm already forgetting. But now they continue this 10 years in the future, and there are 3 books out currently, and then a 4th one is coming out. So those are on my list as well. Ashes of the Sun trilogy by Django Wexler. I own all 3 of those. A Memory Called Empire and a Desolation of Peace by Arkady Martine. I own both of those as well. The Oathsworn Legacy, Blood of the Sands, City of Gods and Monsters, Reign and Ruin, The Thursday Murder Club, House in the Cerulean Sea, The Lies of Locke Lamora, The Way of Kings, whole series. I mean, like starts at like 1,200 pages. Those are brutal. The 5th season in that entire series, I think there's 3. Oathbound, American Gods, Blood Over Brighthaven. Would like to continue in the Mistborn trilogy. I only read the first one, so Well of Ascension and Hero of Ages. The Dryad Storm, which apparently comes out in a couple of days, and I did not even realize. That's by Lori Forrest, and it is the final, I think it's the final one, in the Black Witch Chronicles. And I started and read those so long ago. I feel like this one has been such a long time coming that I remember the basics of the story, but I don't even know for sure where the last one left off. But I also don't want to go back and reread all of them. I think there's already 4 out. I think this is the 5th one, and I don't want to read them all again. But I want to finish and see where we end up. So I think I'm going to read that one. Valor, Ruin, and Wrath. I read Malice, the first one in the John Gwynne series, and I really loved that one. And then I have not continued, and I don't know why. The Games Gods Play, the Spell Shop, and the Enchanted Greenhouse. Spell Shop I own, and then Enchanted Greenhouse I already have as an ARC, even though it doesn't come out until summer. I have it on ebook, so I need to read that. Atmosphere is coming out. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I love her series that are set, in the different decades. And I think this one is the 80s space travel. So definitely want to read that one. The Primal of Blood and Bone is another one that by Jennifer Armentrout that I started reading so long ago, and this one is a continuation, or maybe the last one, or no, I think it's a penultimate. So second to last one in the Blood and Ash series, and I started that so long ago that again, I'm I kind of know where we're at in the story, but there's so many things that are missing from my memory that I'm not gonna go back and read it. So do I want to continue this? I don't know. We'll find out. Thief of Silver and Souls. This is a questionable one. It's on Kindle Unlimited, and a lot of people love it. I think there's nothing about Why Choose Romance that I'm going to like. I really don't think so, but I've never read one. Nothing about it appeals to me, but everybody says that this is a great one if you are going to start and see if you like it. And also in this one, we don't really get as much into the romance, and it's more about the plot and world building in this. So maybe I'm going to like it. So we'll see. Also, Beneath Black Sails, The Ever King, Bloodguard, and another one, Binding 13. That gets such great reviews, but then I was reading, I feel like romance and dark romance is just not for me as an entire genre, but we're gonna try. And then that way I can completely take it off my list if I don't. So those are some of the highlights. Let me know how you felt about any of those. If you think I should prioritize any of them, do let me know. I am curious to see. And then if there's anything that you are very much looking forward to in 2025 to read, I would like to know that as well. Just to see if I've already read it, see if I should put it on my radar. Obviously that was not a ton of books. I do want to read 120 books this year outside of anything witchcraft, because I feel like the witchcraft books are more study, learn something books, and I'm talking more fiction books. I want to read 120, and there's only 57 on my TBR. So I have room to grow. So do let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you have made it to the end, then please like and subscribe. I appreciate having you here this year. And if you don't have any books specific to comment about, then just leave me a little book emoji down there and let me know that you were here until the end. That's everything for this video. I will see you next week to chat about goals.